Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing another build. This is a slightly cheaper, not as cheap as I would have liked, gaming build, but we'll do 1080p gaming at 60 frames a second on medium, high, ultra settings, depending on what game you're playing. Now, compared to the APU build I just did in the last video, this is going to be quite a bit bigger, so it's not going to be closer to console size like the ITX is. It's going to be quite a bit larger. It's going to be a tower like that or whatever. And I made some differences. It's not going to be water cooled like the last one because certain caveats made and whatnot. So let's just get into it, and I'll explain why I chose the parts I did along the way. And if I start losing my voice, it's because my throat's dry. I don't know what's going on. So let's get started. So we have the AMD Athlon multi-core processor. Is basically the Athlon X4 760K. Stock clock of 3.8 gigahertz on the FM2 platform. I could have gone a little bit cheaper and gotten an FM2 board, but I decided to get FM2 Plus. I hate to use the word future-proofing, but could give you guys more options in the future as newer processors come out. It's my understanding that the FM2 Plus is supposed to stick around at least until about midway through 2015. And then I don't know what's going to happen after that. If it's my guess, the FX processors will come back to the desktop as sort of more enthusiast, and then they'll probably put the future APUs on the same socket. So I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, that's just speculation. For the here and now, it's a quad-core processor for $85. Matter of fact, on that note, I need to mention it's listed here as 90, but if you go down here where it says 49 new on the Amazon website, it'll take you to where you can see the link that's $85 through Amazon. So the coolest thing, we're going to be using a Cooler Master Hyper T4. Now it's air cooled, but it is a large tower cooler, 120 millimeter fan, and it's on par with the Hyper 212 that everybody loves. I'm not a big fan of the Hyper 212 for AMD mounts because I've noticed that you'll sit there and it'll just move slightly. But you do want something better. This is the AMD stock cooler that comes with the 760K, and it does fine at stock clocks, but this thing gets insanely loud. Like when you're doing something or pushing it, it'll get into like blow dryer mode. So you definitely want something else. This has a nice feature though. This little bracket here off to the right is actually the same thing as this. So you don't have to take the AMD bracket off of the motherboard like you do with a lot of other things. You just basically stick the tower on, and then that little swing arm goes right between the tower, and you just swing it down just like you would with any other AMD cooler. Next we have, for our motherboard, we went a little bit big here, and this is the MSI, what do they call this? The MSI A88XM Gaming, I believe. Yeah, I guessed right. That's what it's called. So for 9349, this is quite a good board. You do crazy up to DDR 2400 OC and all that stuff, but we're not using an APU. You're not going to need to do that. What I like about this is it offers other features, like it's got 4 memory slots. It can do Crossfire with AMD boards. Unfortunately, no SLI. Has 8 set of 3 ports. Kind of looks nice with the little dragons and stuff if you're into that. Has USB 3 connectivity, 4 ports on the back, display port out and all that stuff if you ever do end up using an APU. One touch overclocking right there with the OC button. You can also do your own overclocking if you want, but if you're not, if you're new to it or whatnot, you can just press that and then you're overclocked. We've got their audio boost, which is basically a Realtek ALC 1150 is their high-end Realtek audio processor. It's separated by this audio shield, and the motherboard's got one of those lines like the Asus board does, have it separated. And this also has the Broadcom killer NIC in it. I believe it's the E2200. So it's a pretty stacked motherboard for the price. It also has some of the nicer things in the MSI gaming boards, like the black 10K caps in there, which just means I think it's supposed to be rated for 10,000 hours, continuous hours, or something like that. But basically, the caps are rated for lower and higher temperatures as well. And it's got the super ferrite chokes in there too, which deliver cleaner power to the CPU. So you can't go wrong for that. It's a much better board than I could have gotten for the money when I was building. So some other things it's got, as you can see on the back here, all the audio ports are actually gold plated. Now it's not going to really do anything. Well, you know, it being an analog connection, it could do something for the audio transmission, but probably not a whole lot. It's more there for wear and tear, and it's supposedly the two USB ports, which they're suggesting you use to plug your mouse and keyboard in with, are also gold plated, and that's not going to really do anything with the transmission of the signal because it is digital, but you will get better wear and tear. So if you're taking this thing to like parties or something a whole lot, that's really nice to have. Memory, not much to say about it. It is ADATA XPG, I guess OC series, even though it's only 1600 megahertz. It's not really OC, but I chose this because it's low profile. It's a plain black color, so it should look fine with everything. If you want to use a different color, there's plenty available here, but you might end up paying more. The red that they have listed here is actually 1866. So it's a little bit faster, but with this particular setup, the RAM speed is really not going to give you any extra performance like it would on an APU. Hard drive, once again, going to 1 terabyte Western Digital Caviar Blue. For same reasons I stated in the last video, I'm not going to get into it again. And then, just like I said in the last video, you can get the PNY 240 gig SSD for what was it? $100 after $10 rebate, so $110 without the rebate. And it's a good drive, but you're not going to get the same amount of storage, so it's up to you. It's the PNY XLR8 on Newegg is where you can find it. Okay, so for discrete graphics card, because we do need one with this processor because it doesn't have a GPU in it like APU does. So I ended up going with the EVGA GTX 750 Ti, and as you can see here on Newegg, after $10 rebate, it's $120, which is really awesome. It's a nice small card. You don't need to plug it into any kind of PCI Express power connections on your power supply. Although this power supply does have them, but you don't need to. It just runs off PCI Express. Now this is not the Superclock card. Now here's my reasonings for this, because I went and looked at the Superclock card. There are other graphics cards out there. This is the cheapest GTX 750 Ti right now. Also the nicest, because unlike all the other versions, for some reason they all come with VGA, DVI, and HDMI. I don't know why you would still be using VGA. I really don't. To me, it's been a dead plug for years. The only reason people still use it or put it on things is because they don't have to pay extra to do it. It's like basically a free port. But then again, I don't understand why you don't put DisplayPort on there too. DisplayPort's also free for them. There's no licensing fee or anything they have to do. So this has DVI. It's got the adapter for VGA, DVI to VGA if you need to use a VGA connection on an older monitor. HDMI if you're just hooking up to your TV, or a lot of monitors have HDMI. And it's also got DisplayPort. Now DisplayPort's important because GeForce cards will support newer monitors called G-Sync, And what G-Sync does is all monitors typically run at 60 frames a second. Now, the problem with games is games don't always run at 60 frames a second because it takes a certain amount of time for an image to be processed. So what you end up doing is you'll see like these weird tears in the image, or you'll have to use VSync, and VSync causes lag in the game. What the G-Sync monitors will do is it'll actually say, when the graphics card says, I'm finished with the frame, then it'll output to the monitor. So say your game's running at 48 frames a second, then your monitor runs at 48 frames a second, and it changes dynamically as the game goes. So you get this really nice, smooth image that doesn't have any screen tearing or anything in it. And unfortunately, with all the 760s that I've seen, or 750 Ti's, I should say, I've seen, the only ones that really have DisplayPort are the EVGA ones. Now, as far as the overclocking goes, these overclock really nice. The only difference between this and EVGA's superclocked version is it's basically $30 more. The superclocked version has a copper core on the cooler, which is really not necessary because the Maxwell chips run so damn cool now. And you didn't hear it from me, but one thing that you can do is you can go find the BIOS for the 750 Ti superclocked, and you can flash this card, and it's essentially a superclock card. You can also just open up Precision X, which is their tools, and just turn stuff up and get it to the same clocks that it's on the superclock card, and it's a lot cheaper. The only differences you might see is the fan might be slightly louder because the core is getting slightly warmer because it's all aluminum as opposed to a copper core. But that copper core is maybe a difference of 5 degrees, which is like a difference between 55C and 60C. And it's still not getting anywhere near its limit. It's basically, thermal red line. So you don't need to worry about it. This thing's going to overclock fine. And I guess it comes with this $150 worth of crap for games. Whatever. I don't play Game Warfare or Path of Exile. It's the only bad thing about the system, it doesn't come with any free games like the last one. But pretty nice card. Is flippin' small. It's a tiny little card. But believe it or not, it'll run everything that you try to throw at it at 1080p in one way or another. Oops. Let's see here. Get back OBS working again. There we go. Okay, for the case, it's a Cooler Master N200 MATX or Micro ATX case. It's a pretty sharp looking case, I think, and cheap, which is really nice. It's got 2 USB 2.0 and 1 3.0 in the front. Room for optical. It's got like a floppy drive bay, which I guess is like card reader bay nowadays if you want to use it. The thing I really like about this is if you decide to do water cooling, it'll support both 120 millimeter and 240 millimeter rads. This whole front end will fit a Sidon 240L, which is pretty nice. Matter of fact, I think they got a picture of it with that. Yeah, so right here you can see there's one of the Sidon 120s on there. And wrong one. Oh, there we go. And this is with the 240 rad in the front. And actually a thick one too. Looks like it's the XL rad. So pretty good case for the money. And then lastly, because we're going with the 750 Ti, which is only a 65 watt GPU, we don't need a whole lot for power. So I've decided to go for the Corsair CX430M, just like in the last video. For the same reasons, it's modular power supply. It's easier to do cable routing when you got less cables and stuff like that. And it's actually cheaper than the regular 430 and it is not modular. So why wouldn't you go for this over that one? If you had plans to do higher end GPUs in the future, obviously you're going to need a 500 or 600 watt power supply. But once again, like with the APU, I wouldn't recommend anything over a 280X or GTX 770 with this processor. Alright, so is there anything else I'm forgetting about this? Now, one of the things I would probably get some flack for is choosing an AMD CPU with a NVIDIA GPU. Now, typically in the past, NVIDIA GPUs run better on Intel. However, as of late with the current beta driver, the biggest performance increases that they were talking about weren't on Intel systems, they were on AMD. And it's just basically they were fixing a lot of problems they had. It seemed like for the longest time, NVIDIA kind of made their drivers more skewed towards Intel and not AMD, and I understand they're in competition with them, but that doesn't really help their cause because they're not in competition with AMD's CPU division. I think they finally started to realize that, and it seems like with the latest drivers, we're seeing you can't call it bottleneck when it's just not very well optimized. It's quite literally the system is running almost neck to neck with an i5 as far as like discrete gaming goes. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing in most cases an i5 is only getting like a 1% difference, which is nothing at all in gaming. So when it still comes to productivity, like video editing and stuff like that, the i5 is obviously still going to be a lot better than the AMD part. But just for gaming and surfing the web, this thing is awesome. It'll do fine for a while, and having that FM2 Plus socket in there, when they come out with their next AMD Athlon whatever, that will probably be like PCI Express 3, I hope, and other new features, then you can throw that in there and be ready to go. So I think I pretty much covered everything. Sorry if that was a little long-winded, and of course, never use this because this thing's a blow dryer. So I will have a link to the build list down below. I stream on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitter at Cell Processing. You can find me on Twitch at Cell Processing. And let's see. E3's this week. I was going to do a predictions video, but decided I just don't want to spend that much time editing videos and stuff today or doing all that kind of work. So I've talked to some friends. What we're going to do is either on Monday or Tuesday night, we're going to do a live stream on Twitch. I'll send out a Twitter notification about hopefully an hour and a half before we go live, and then I will post that to YouTube eventually. We're just going to talk about what happened at the press events, kind of our take on it, and the rest of the week coming up at E3. So stay tuned for that, and until next time, I guess next thing I got coming up after that will be a medium build, I guess is the way to say it, like middle of the road kind of PC. And then as far as like the high end, like $1,000 machine, there's nothing better. So you can actually find that on this channel. It was $1,000 8-core AMD gaming machine. But all right, so till next time, I'm out.